bags are packed, are you ready to go? This time tomorrow we'll be on the road, riding with you in the sunnier days. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Well, thank you to all of you for being here and playing with me today. And I want to thanks to everyone at home that's tuning in. So please make yourselves comfortable and settle in for the second chapter of Children of Éarte. So where we left off last time, all 5 of you were attempting to break into one of the other compartments in this lovely train that you have been exploring and have been invited to take a very cool adventure on. I think it was Maeve. You were down. You were using a credit card, and oh no, wait, it was a.
I had my Swiss Army
pocket
knife, and my my
your
Allen wrench.
hex.
Oh,
Yes,
I meant
your
to
Allen
bring one. I
wrenches.
forgot to bring one with me.
No worries. You had your pocket knife and your Allen wrench. So as you worked your Allen wrench, you did hear a click, as if you did manipulate something within that lock, but your pocket knife, as you tried to sort of jimmy it in between the seam of the door and the jamb, cracked as you pulled it. It actually broke it in half as it fell and clattered to the ground. Meanwhile, Neb, you've been hearing whispers coming from within that room. So, where we left off last, I think we were with Neb, who had just been horribly burned at the door, attempting one more time to open this surprisingly difficult door. And as you turned around and looked out the window opposite the door, you saw little blue lights, almost like fireflies chasing the train, trying to, move along with it. Meanwhile, Silas, you were back in your room, recovering from this act of daring do, hanging onto the side of a train. Your stuff has been strewn about the place. And I believe Feruza, Maeve, and Robin, you had a lovely night of charcuterie and slumber partying planned. So, when we last left you, you had broken your way finally into room A. Within room A, there was fog, smoke, clouds hard to see, very obscured. You began communicating with some voices from another realm, something in a presence or more in this space. You had found a shattered mirror upon the wall, but it was missing a number of its pieces. Only one shard remained. Those of you who had stayed in the hall saw a shadowy presence standing in the doorway, but before you could do much about it, the door began to shut and you found all of yourselves stuck in room A. The door closed. After asking a few questions, the train came to a violent halt, throwing 2 of you to the ground. Or just the one, Neb? I can't remember. Maybe just Neb. And yes, Maeve hit the pavement as well. Neb went flying into the shower, getting a nice close look at that beautiful old 1930s mosaic tiles. As of now, the train is stopped in this small compartment, again, beautifully decorated from what you can see, but again, there's this fog just all around you. The 5 of you are in there together now, and you can just feel the swirl and the smoke every so often, a bit of an energy. So, when we last left you, you had all escaped from room A, having fought some shadowy presence, discovering as well that the people that you were on board this train with now somehow are no longer here or only here intermittently. As you went and explored the rest of the train, you found a couple of interesting things. You also made your way towards the engine, where you discovered that boulders had fallen down off of the mountainside and blocked the train's path. So we will pick up with all of you outside the train. We have Neb and Robin and Maeve and Feruza sort of standing by the engine, and we have Silas up on top of the sleeper car looking ahead. So last time we ended, you had explored this train that had sort of stopped in front of a collapse of boulders, sort of an avalanche that had covered the tracks in front. You'd explored the train. You'd found that the people, the staff that were there with you, had all, fled in the night, taking their things with them. Um, you were just now deciding you had a lovely breakfast, and you were at noon after a nice long 8 hours of deep rest, which you needed terribly. You have all made the decision to equip yourselves and hike over the avalanche tracks towards the Twin Creeks Mining Company, which you are fairly certain is not too far off down the way. All right. So last time, you woke up on the train to find that pretty much all the other people who were in this other sort of, world from you, a different plane almost of existence, had sort of abandoned train, abandoned ship, abandoned train. They had sort of very much avoided the old sleeper car. You guys went and equipped yourselves because you had the idea that you needed to go to the Twin Creeks mine to find this lost piece of glass, this shard of glass, to sort of help either release whatever spirit is being held in room A and potentially release yourselves from this predicament. You went around the avalanche, had a very interesting encounter with some wolves, defended yourself admirably, and perhaps made a new connection, Neb. And you then made it to the outside of the Twin Creeks mine. So we'll pick up around there. It was a long walk once you got around that sort of avalanche that was blocking the tracks. It took you at least an hour, hour and a half as you sort of dragged your sled along the train tracks. As you went along, you could see that down off, over to the left, it sloped downward into more forest and trees, then up onto the mountainside on the other side, just beautiful white snow. And as the tree line kind of disappears, it goes higher. During your walk, the sun sort of slowly started to set, so that just as you were arriving at Twin Creeks Mine, you felt it was that perfect sort of magic hour, dusk, if you may. Arriving there, you saw that there were a number of switch tracks. There were some hand cars, otherwise known as pump trolleys, which have these sort of, it's like a seesaw that'll sort of pump them and move them down the track for you. You saw then the opening to the mine. It was very small, sort of unassuming, lintel and post, low, about 4 feet off the ground, icicles hanging down. It's brutally cold now that the sun is going down. You've really felt the drop in temperature, so you're glad for your winter wear and your new pants, Silas, courtesy of Robin. So yeah, as these icicles drip down almost from the ceiling to the floor, almost like bars, sort of barring the way into the mine. As you look around, you also see many other sort of features of this area. There is a frozen water tower. There's a stack of something, probably wood covered over with a tarp. You can see more tracks and a chute that heads down the slope. As you sort of peer down the slope, off to your left side, you can see two creeks, indeed, two rivers that sort of flow down by the bottom of this rise. On this other side, there's mostly kind of just abandoned wheelbarrows and crates and barrels, things like that. You do see sort of a path that heads off around to the other side of this kind of jut of mountain. But that's what's in this particular area. So where we left off last time, you all had just been through quite a battle with a trio of ice monsters, little icy devil creatures that had come after you when you approached the entrance of the mine, because you have indeed made your way to the Twin Creeks mining. The Twin Creeks mine. And here you made a campfire. You had a lovely fireside chat where you started to bring together some of the disparate, pieces of this puzzle, this mystery that you're starting to pull together. And you got kind of a lay of the land of this area. So there is, of course, the entrance to the mine, which was covered with icicles. Now it is mostly cleared. Now that those icicles came to life and killed a few of you, almost killed a few of you. Other than that, there are tracks, there are hand cars, there are wheelbarrows and crates. There's a trough that heads down the hill into the stream below. You can see there's two creeks down at the bottom of the rise on the other side of the tracks. You also saw sort of a path going around the side of the mountain. Other than that, Neb, when you went and peeked into the mine, you saw tracks that are covered with snow on the outside, but that went into the mine and some kind of machinery back towards the back of it. So you've just finished your battle with these ice creatures. You are terribly wounded and hurt. But morale is fairly high because some of you have displayed really magic that you maybe weren't aware of previously. And here you are in the middle of the night. It's cold, it's dark, but you have made yourselves a little shelter using your sled. The side of the mountain, you've made a fire, and you are now seemingly at peace. So where we left off, you had all made it through the night camping outside of quote unquote Steve's mine. You had shared a lot of information about each other, found potentially some connections. You got into a vicious fight with some ice creatures, but still you all managed to survive. Through the night, you took watches, and each of you felt yourselves getting a little bit stronger. Something about this time, this night, this rest that you had seemed to just sharpen your senses a little bit. When you woke up the next morning, you began to explore your surroundings. You could see towards the back without having gone in the mine yet, which is that threshold has yet to be breached. You had seen what looked like a lift, a mine shaft lift at the back of that cavern. As you kind of went outside and up around, you found a very large sort of field where the snow wasn't sticking. It had sort of this sort of yellow, red sort of sand and deposits with rocks and things in it that sort of slid down this hillside. You then found a long house kind of up, sitting on top of the side of this mountain. Upon entering it, you found a small sort of steam engine with a water tank and a firebox that was attached to some gears and a cable, one end of which went down a shaft and you think attaches to the lift that you saw at the back of that mine. The other one, however, goes down a second shaft about 1 inch and a foot in diameter and just descends into darkness. Right where we left, you had been exploring some barrels in the corner and just made the determination that they are cyanide salts, which are chemicals used to break down rock and in mining for gold. You also were duct taping Firuzah's cell phone to a rope that I believe your plan is to turn on the flashlight, turn on the video, and drop it down and see what you can record. So we left off last time. You had explored the longhouse. You had attempted to save Firuzah's phone from some icky blob that came up out of the shaft. And you also broke the mine elevator, crashed it down to the bottom of the shaft. On your way back, having collected some cyanide salts, and having discovered a few more talents, particularly from Neb and Silas, a storm began to brew. A possible snowstorm just pulling in, and just as it was starting to get really heavy, you got all of your gear into the mouth of this cave and checked out, looking down the shaft to the bottom, where you believe there is a shard of glass that you are after. So you feel fairly safe in here. The snow does sort of, it finds its way a couple of feet into the mouth opening, but it's a fairly small opening to this mine shaft. It's about 4 feet tall, only about 5-6 feet wide. So once you get in, very quickly, you can get past that line of snow. And it is definitely warmer in here. Your body heat pretty quickly begins to sort of fill this space. So when we last left you, you had taken refuge in the sort of mouth this mine as a snowstorm swept in and just like slowly covered the entrance to the cave in thick packed snow. You took a long rest where you had a number of different little adventures in pairs or alone, one of which was Neb, our darling Neb, having a long conversation with a very intelligent rat named Nicholas. Nicholas invited you to a party. They were having a party of which the theme was rat, and it was on the 3rd level down of the mine. So once everyone was up, you got into your spelunking and climbing gear, and what do they call that? Rappelled down the mine shaft that you had exploded earlier today. To the 3rd level. I believe Silas, you were in the lead, followed by Feruza. Was that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then the other 3 coming up behind.
Silas followed by Robin, followed by Feruza.
Robin. Sorry, Silas followed by Robin, followed by Feruza, with then Neb and Maeve coming up from the top. And as Silas and Robin and Feruza, you turn around, your headlamps alight on a cave that goes off from one side, the opposite side that you are rappelling down. And the floor of this cave mouth is covered in undulating rats. They climb over one another. You can barely even see the floor for the mass of them. There is a skittering kind of noise of rat squeaks and claws, and they move almost as if in a little rhythm. It's a little rat rave going on down in this cave. All right, so where we left off, the party had split, as you do. We had Neb and
Always a
Silas.
great idea.
Always a great idea. We had Neb and Silas attending a very fancy rat party. What did I call it? It was a baby shower of some sorts going
Baby
on
shower.
there. Yes, a pup shower.
Yeah.
Rat pup shower. And you had discovered some sort of strange collection of letters underneath the birthing mother rat, Christine, that as of now, you do not understand sort of the further context of that. Then we had Feruza and Robin and Maeve, who were going deeper down into the 4th level of this mine. They had dug through some stones, found some old museum exhibits, and were following a cart trail deeper and deeper into the mountain. You crossed a very scary trestle bridge in the center of a dark, mysterious cavern and had just arrived safely at the other side when we left off. All right, so where we left off, Feruza and Silas had just finally made their way back up onto the trestle bridge after dealing with these sort of water snakes at the bottom. The team up top did a very good job of getting them back up to safety, but it's around now going to be about midday. You guys woke up early, but you took some time to set up your ropes, and then you did at least an hour or two sort of exploring there. So you're looking at like midday now. I also just want to offer to you and everyone at home so they know, because you took that time to set up your ropes properly and Robin had some expertise, that's going to be free movement for you. It doesn't mean there might not be an encounter that might happen in there, but I'm not going to ask you for athletics checks every time you want to climb the shaft back to your home base. So that is sort of free space. It takes, it'll take time to do it, but there won't be checks for it. So there we are. So what we had is Robin and Feruza. You had chosen to stay on the other side. You had all climbed around and tried the other fork of these cart tracks and found an old-timey diorama that was sort of explaining how old miners would have looked for gold, within this kind of a complex. So while Neb and Maeve decided to spelunk their way through a sort of hidden passageway that they found at the back, the 3 of you, Silas, Feruza, and Robin, had stayed behind. However, they were gone quite a while, and Silas, you eventually decided to follow as well. Meanwhile, what you didn't know was happening down there is that Maeve and Neb had found a very large, sort of open, narrow chasm in the center of this sort of rock mountain. Neb had climbed down with Maeve holding on the ropes above and discovered kind of a bone graveyard of different animals, some things that might possibly have been human. Just as Silas was beginning to approach and get to the final sort of section of this cave system that he's climbing through, Neb heard a noise off to the side. You also all had noticed a bloody handprint on the wall. Looked human to you, just across the way. So we'll start down there with Neb and come back and find the rest of you. So Maeve, you're up above on belay. Neb is down at the bottom, crouched in a sort of sea of bones. Off down the ways in the darkness, and you move your headlamp. You all have these headlamps on to sort of try to gaze, but it's so hard to make out rock from bone, and there's this constant sort of drip from the stalagmites and coming, the wetness of the walls or the humidity that's sort of been held in here. And the noise that you hear is this sort of odd kind of clicking. So where we left off, we had Maeve and Neb and Silas in a very precarious situation, stuck in a cave filled with water, and no yet determination on how to find a safe way out. We also have Firuza and Robin, who were exploring through the now emptied of water caverns, where they came across a statue that seems to be guarding another one of these sort of hidden cipher messages, at which point it asked them to give it what it craves. They decided that was a hug, and it crushed dear Robin's arm in the process of that. So let's start with the three, Maeve, Neb, and Silas, down in our cavern of doom here.
Official name of it, Cavern of Doom. Okay.
Cavern of Doom.
It's going in the notes.
Title of the show right there.
I feel like all of these are caverns of doom. Sort of.
This one in specific, yeah.
This one specifically has been pretty dooming. Where we left off, yes, Robin and Firuza had bravely faced Steve the statue. They had released him, really, and he walked off somewhere into the caverns. We're not sure where, but they were able to discover the code on level 4, as well as translate it. So you now have the code from level 4 and level 3. They are now on their way, returning back towards the more known areas of the caverns. Silas, Neb, and Maeve, you all made your way finally out of this now water-filled stope where the gold once was, and have climbed across into a tunnel on the other side. You are now making your way upwards when you came across a strange creature that attacked you. After a quick sort of investigation of it, once you had defeated it, determined that it was mostly attracted by sound. It was also had grippy fingers and able to sort of climb the walls a little bit. As you were doing so, even though you had turned off your music that you would use to distract this creature, you began to hear noises of more, but this time approaching from behind you, from the direction that you were coming from. And you had just turned tail and were beginning to climb as quickly as you could in the opposite direction. Sure. You all were split up, right? We had Firuza and Robin were off dealing with a stone man, Steve, and found their way back to the entrance of the cave, having noticed his, Kool-Aid-sized impression leaving out into the snow somewhere off into the wilderness. While they were making their way back and getting there, we had Silas, Maeve, and Neb, who were navigating their way through tunnels, chased by horrible, fleshy creatures with mushy bones that just wanted to eat them. When they made it out, they crossed a river of terrible ichor, finally able to make it back again, find their friends. You are now all above. you came out of that sort of Ichor tunnel on the second level, so that gives you a little bit of information about what's there, and you began to make camp and sort of share information about what you had learned. You now have 2 codes of what you believe there are 4, and we've had, I think, had most of you fall asleep right away, where Silas and Neb were just finishing their watch. Neb learned she could turn into a pangolin, as well as you all heard, you think, some wolves off in the distance howling, but you decided to leave them be for the moment. So yes, I will pick up there. You're just heading back. It's starting to be the end of your watch and the beginning of Maeve's. Last week, we had a bit of a side quest, which was interesting. Our players woke up warm and safe on the top level of the mine, of Steve's mine, and they ventured out into the woods, sort of searching after the wolf howls that you'd heard in the night, and also seemed to find moose tracks from this elusive moose that Feruza connected with on her last night out in the cold. When you came to a river you couldn't pass, most of you went to try and cross on a log bridge. However, Neb immediately transformed and hopped across, making friends with a finch, and discovered a grisly scene of some slaughtered wolf pack and terrifying noises out in the woods, gigantic trees falling seemingly by an invisible hand. The moose made its return to sort of help stave off disaster, and you all trekked your way back to the mine, feeling that was a little too much to handle right now. Giant, terrifying creatures in the woods, and made your way down to the first level, where you ground some stones using the technology of the day, and discovered some strange runes, some strange letters at the bottom of this cistern. Josh, if you'd like to show everyone the level 1 clue again. You received this, dusted away some of the stone shavings there, and found this. And of course, we have a book that translates things. So, as you'll remember, last time we returned from our side quest, and you had found the clue from the first level. You then proceeded to the second level, which is where you believed the final clue would be etched. You made your way down that tunnel towards the sort of lake of Ichor, this sort of river pool of Ichor between you and the shale on the other side. But very lengthy, not very healthy conversation there, which summoned 5 scary crawlers into this room with you. You were able over time to take them all out. However, the ooze is attacking at the same time and splashing whenever a creature fell into it, so you have some residual damage from that. Yes, last episode, 2 weeks ago now, as I remember back, it was mostly bathing and story time. I think we caught up a little bit on the end of our fight, but you found the last clue, made it back to camp, took a very fancy homemade bath, and had a bit of story time where Silas let you in on some of his deep, dark secrets. And there we shall begin. I think Silas was just wrapping up. You had seen a fox, an orange fox, just the silhouette of it in the cave entrance before it darted off into the darkness.
So last we left, you all had taken a long rest and had these experiences sort of out in the moonlight, where each of you has felt quite empowered. Something about the experiences that you've been through, these events that you've lived, have kind of coursed through your veins, and there's something, just sort of an electricity within your body that you can feel is a little bit new. You then made your way down the main mine shaft to this very small, narrow crevice in the ground at the beginning of the 4th level tunnels. This is where you had found the old ancient piton that had been, stuck into that wall. It seemed very sturdy, so you attached your rope to it, and I believe Silas had offered to be the first to go down. Now we're going to offer that Alicia's Feruza, the wonderful lumberjack lawyer, the strength, the heart of this party, we're going to take a little poetic license and say that she offered to be the last woman standing at the top there, sort of holding the rope, making sure that the rest of you were able to get down safe.
So where we left off last week, we had a lovely retrospective kind of time as each of our characters descended down the crevasse into the deepest level of this mine, as far as you know. And yes, Feruza, you were up at the top holding onto the rope bravely, making sure that everyone else got down safely. Now, they did secure it to the piton up there, so it is secured for you to climb down. It's just that you will fall a little farther should you make a misstep than the others. But they are all down. They give a tug on the rope to let you know that it's safe, and you can begin your descent story. So from last time, we remember that you all finally made your way into the very depths of the Twin Creeks mine. When you were down there, you strategically and skillfully made your way across a frozen lake, and using the power of belief and teamwork, retrieved a piece of broken glass long frozen in the ice. You then made your way back up to the top, packed up your things, and got on a push cart and headed out down the tracks back towards the train. So I think, did we say what time of day it was? I'm trying to remember what we said last time. I didn't have
I thought you said there was daylight left.
Yeah, you said it was
I think it was still daylight. It was maybe midday. I want to say it was like middle of the day because you had gotten up and gone to do that last little adventure. So yeah, it's probably like noon. On this push cart, you are making so much more speed, as you know, than walking. You guys can really get a good rhythm going as you sort of up and down with this push cart. It takes you down, and you're sort of just gliding through this beautiful forest land, this mythic Canadian landscape. So if you remember last time, our party here returned to the train where they found Steve, the statue, had removed the debris in front of the train and was standing stock still at the side of the tracks. Upon further investigation, you found that 2 of the pocket watches that you have found seemed to sort of match up and were absorbed into his body. So you've now lost those 2 pocket watches onto his, I guess they were magnetically attached sort of to his body there. You then began to again search the train. You decided to go forward first. You crept your way through the tender, which has this pass through, very tight little quarters to get through, and into the engine where you found a body. Robin recognized this as the person that had died when the train first initially stopped. But as you all were fighting it, as it rose up and tried to kill Neb, as most things do,
if I can't talk to it, it's going to fight me.
It's going to try to eat you, clearly.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
As you all were fighting it, Robin snuck over and discovered that it had crawled out of its grave, and that so it is likely a reanimated corpse, like a zombie. However, once destroyed, it shattered into millions of tiny little pieces of glass dust. And I believe that's basically where we left off.